Florence Adetola was the epitome of grace and success. At 30, she was thriving as a managing director in one of the most reputable financial institutions in Lagos. Her days were consumed by numbers, negotiations, and the exhilarating rush of high-stakes deals. But beneath her polished exterior was a woman tethered by expectations she had no desire to fulfill. Her parents, Chief and Mitchell Adetola, had always been proud of her accomplishments, but as the years passed, their pride turned into concern, then thinly veiled disappointment. Every conversation, every dinner, every phone call eventually circled back to the same plea. Florence, when will you settle down? We just want to see you happy with a family of your own before it's too late. Florence, however, was content. She didn't believe that marriage or children defined happiness. Her independence, her freedom to chase her dreams, that was what fulfilled her. But her parents' persistence knocked at her. She loved them deeply, and their longing for grandchildren weighed heavily on her heart. Florence met Funsho, a 32-year-old Yoruba man with striking looks and a charming personality. Though he wasn't financially stable and lacked a sustainable job, he worked part-time as a model for a prominent clothing company. Funsho was well known as a ladies' man, thanks to his impressive physique and handsome features. Their paths crossed at Florence's workplace, a bank, under unusual circumstances. Funsho had come to the bank upset because a payment for a job he completed hadn't been credited to his account. Frustrated, he caused a commotion, prompting the security team to call for Florence, the managing director, when their attempt to calm him failed. As Florence stepped out to address the situation, it was love at first sight for Funsho. He was instantly captivated by her beauty, finding her to be the most stunning woman he had ever seen. In that moment, he completely forgot the reason for his outburst. "Hello, sir. Please calm down and follow me to my office so we can discuss this," Florence said, locking eyes with Funsho. He nodded silently, speechless and mesmerized by her presence. Florence walked briskly back to her office, her heels clicking against the marble floors of the bank, leading Funsho behind her. He followed like a man under a spell, his anger completely overshadowed by her captivating presence. As they entered her spacious, impeccably furnished office, Florence gestured towards the leather chair opposite her desk. "Please have a seat," she said, her voice calm but firm. Funsho sat, still dazed, and watched as she settled into her chair, folding her arms neatly on the desk. Her poise, elegance, and authority struck him, and for the first time, he felt out of place. His ripped jeans and casual shirt contrasted sharply with a tailored suit and polished demeanor. "So, Mr. Funsho," he managed to say, his voice steadying. "Just Funsho." Florence raised a perfectly arched brow, but said nothing. She gestured for him to explain his outburst. "I worked for one of your clients, a major job modeling for their campaign. The payment was supposed to hit my account last week, but nothing has come through," he explained. "I have been patient, but I need that money. It's not easy out there, you know." Florence listened attentively, her eyes never leaving his. She could sense his frustration, but beneath it, there was vulnerability. "I understand your frustration, Funsho," she replied. "Let me check your details and see what happened." She pulled up his account information on her computer and after a few minutes of typing, found the issue. "It seems there was an error on the client's end, but I'll have my team expedite this. You will receive your payment within 24 hours. Funsho's shoulders relaxed. As he let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "Thank you, ma'am," he said, his voice softer. "I didn't mean to cause a scene, but I am really struggling right now." Florence nodded, her heart tugging slightly. There was something about him that intrigued her, his rugged charm, his honesty. "I understand," she said, "but next time try to resolve matters calmly. Creating a scene doesn't help anyone." He smiled sheepishly, scratching the back of his neck. "You're right, I will keep that in mind." As their eyes met again, the air between them grew charged. Florence quickly looked away, reminding herself of her professionalism, but the moment lingered, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she found herself wanting to know more about him. Over the next few days, Florence couldn't shake the memory of Funsho. She found herself replaying their conversations. His smile and the way his eyes seems to hold a world of stories. Funsho, on the other end, couldn't stop thinking about her elegance and warmth. Against his better judgment, he returned to the bank a week later, this time with a bouquet of roses. When he walked into her office, Florence was stunned. Funsho, she said, standing up, what are you doing here? I just wanted to thank you, he said, holding out the flowers, and I was hoping we could have coffee sometimes. Florence hesitated. She knew the risk of mixing business with personal matters, and her parents would disapprove of someone like Funsho, jobless and far removed from their elite social circle. But against all logic, she agreed. Their relationship began as a whirlwind. Florence introduced Funsho to a world he had only dreamed of: lavish dinners, elegant parties, and luxurious vacation. But the more they fell for each other, the more their differences began to show. Florence's parents disapproved vehemently, urging her to end the relationship and marry someone more suitable. Meanwhile, Funsho struggled with the pressures of living up to her world, his insecurities growing with every judgmental glance and whispered comment. Why would you marry someone like him, Florence? A man with no future. He seems like a gold digger. Florence's mother, Michelle, exclaimed one sunny afternoon, her voice filled with frustration. Mom, Florence began, her voice steady yet filled with emotions. I already have feelings for him. Funsho isn't what you think he is. He's different. He loves me deeply. I have fallen in love with him and I can't turn back now. Please, don't stop me from loving him. I am ready to give you grandchildren with Funsho. Just accept him and let's set a date for our introduction and wedding so I can finally settle down. Her mother sighed deeply, a tear glittering in the corner of her eyes. Oh, my baby, Michelle said softly, her voice laced with concern. Have you thought this through? Are you sure this is what you want? Yes, Mom, Florence replied with conviction. My mind is made up. Funsho is the right man for me. Michelle hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, my love, bring him to meet your father and me next weekend, and we'll fix a date for the introduction ceremony, she said, wiping away the tear that had escaped down her cheek. Thank you, Mom, Florence said, embracing her mother tightly, her heart swelling with relief and gratitude. The week leading to the introduction ceremony was a whirlwind for Florence. She was thrilled that her mother, Michelle, had reluctantly given her blessing, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. Her father, an old-fashioned and proud man, had yet to say a word about the relationship. Florence knew that convincing him would be an uphill battle. The following weekend, Funsho arrived at Florence's family house, dressed in his crisp white traditional outfit, his face a mixture of confidence and apprehension. Florence's heart swelled with pride as she opened the door to welcome him, but he couldn't ignore the disapproving stare from the household staff and her father, who sat stiffly in the living room with expression unreadable. Good afternoon, sir, Funsho said, bowing slightly in respect. Florence's father, Chief Adetola, didn't respond immediately. He took a long, scrutinizing look at Funsho before finally gesturing for him to sit. The silence in the air was deafening. Michelle tried to ease the tension by offering refreshment, but Chief Adetola waved her off. So he began, his voice cold and firm. You are the man my daughter wants to marry. Yes, sir, Funsho replied, his tone respectful but steady. And what do you do for a living? Funsho hesitated, the weight of the question sinking in. I work as a model, sir. It's a part-time for now, but I'm building connections and working towards something more stable. Chief Adetola let out a bitter chuckle. Part-time modeling? That's what you are bringing to the table? Do you realize my daughter is a managing director of a prestigious bank? She deserves stability, a man with vision and means, not someone chasing a dream with no foundation. Dad, Florence interjected, her voice sharp. You don't even know him. Funsho has ambition and loves me for who I am, not for what I have. Chief Adetola shook his head. Love? Love doesn't pay bills, Florence. It doesn't secure a future or build a legacy. I have worked hard to give you a life of privilege, and you want to throw it all away? For this? Funsho clenched his fists, trying to maintain his composure. Sir, I understand your concern, and I don't blame you for doubting me. But I love your daughter, and I am willing to do whatever it takes to prove myself. I may not have much now, but I have determination, and I will work hard to give Florence the life she deserves. The sincerity in Funsho's voice made Michelle glance at her husband, silently pleading with him to reconsider. But Chief Adetola was unyielding. Love isn't enough, young man, he said, standing up. As long as I am alive, I won't approve of this marriage. The room fell silent, Florence's heart breaking at her father's words. Tears filled her eyes as she turned to Funsho. I am sorry, she whispered, her voice trembling. Funsho stood, his face stoic. Thank you for your time, sir. I will leave now. He turned to Florence, his eyes softening. I'll wait for you outside. As he walked out of the house, Florence followed him to the gate. I am so sorry, Funsho. My dad is just stubborn. Funsho took her hands in his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. I expected this, Florence, but I'm not giving up on us. I'll prove to him and to everyone that I am worthy of you. Florence nodded, tears streaming down her face. I love you, Funsho. I love you too, he said, pulling her into a tight embrace. But the challenges were far from over. As Florence and Funsho tried to move forward with their plans, the pressure from her family grew. Friends and relatives whispered behind her back, calling Funsho a gold digger and predicting doom for their relationship. Meanwhile, Funsho struggled to find steady work, his confidence taking a hit with every rejection. One fateful evening, as Florence was leaving work, she received a call from Funsho. His voice was frantic. Florence, I need your help. I have been arrested. Her heart dropped. What? Why? They are accusing me of theft at the modeling agency. I didn't do it, Florence, I swear. Without hesitation, Florence rushed to the police station, using her influence to secure his release. But the damage was done. The scandal spread quickly, with rumors swirling that Funsho had been using Florence's money to cover his tracks. When Florence confronted him, he broke down. I didn't do it, Florence. But I can't keep dragging you into my mess. Maybe your father is right. Maybe I'm not good enough for you. Don't say that, she cried. We'll get through this together. I believe in you. But the strain on their relationship grew unbearable. Funsho's insecurities and Florence's family's relentless disapproval created a chasm between them. One evening, Funsho left a note at her doorstep. I love you, Florence, but I can't keep being the reason you suffer. You deserve someone who can stand beside you as an equal, not someone who is always trying to catch up. I hope you find happiness even if it's not with me. Florence was devastated. She searched for him for weeks, but Funsho had disappeared. Her heart ached for him, but she knew he had made his choice. Months later, Florence stood in her office, looking out at the city skyline. She had thrown herself into her work, trying to numb the pain, but deep down, she knew she would always carry the memory of Funsho, the man who taught her the true meaning of love and sacrifice. One evening, as Florence sat in an exclusive restaurant having dinner, the evening was supposed to be eventful for Florence. It had been months since Funsho had vanished from her life, and though she pretended to have moved on, her heart remained a fortress. Love had become a distant, painful memory, and she had sworn to focus solely on herself and her career. The exclusive restaurant was dimly lit, with soft jazz playing in the background. Florence sat at her table, dressed elegantly in a black dress, enjoying her solitude and her favorite dish. The world outside her seemed insignificant until the waitress informed her that her bill had already been settled. Excuse me, Florence said, her voice tinged with confusion and irritation. The gentleman over there, the waitress said, gesturing towards a young man sitting confidently at a corner table. He was dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, his watch glittering under the chandelier light. He caught Florence's gaze and offered a polite smile. Florence's stomach churned, not with flattery but with fury. Who did he think he was? She didn't need anyone paying for her meal, least of all a stranger. Gathering her pulse, she stomped over to his table. "Excuse me," she said sharply, drawing the attention of nearby diners. "Did you pay for my meal?" The man rose to his feet, towering over her slightly. Up close, his features were even more striking: sharp jawline, piercing brown eyes, and a calm demeanor that seemed unshaken by hunger. "I did," he said simply, his voice deep and smooth. "It's just a kind gesture." "Well, next time don't," Florence snapped. "I don't need anyone to pay my bills. I can take care of myself." The man blinked, momentarily surprised by her hostility, but then he smiled. A slow, confident smile. "I mean no offense, miss. It was just a way of appreciating a beautiful woman." "Appreciation or not, I don't need your charity," Florence said, her voice rising slightly. "If you think this is how to impress a woman, then you are very mistaken." Before he could respond, Florence turned on her heel and marched out of the restaurant, her heels clicking angrily against the floor. She didn't care about the stares she had drawn or the whispers that followed her exit. She was done with men and their audacity, but as she walked into her car, a strange feeling lingered in her chest. The man's calmness, his confidence, it annoyed her, but it also unsettled her in a way she couldn't explain. Over the next few weeks, Florence pushed the incidents to the back of her mind, but fate had other plans. One evening, during a charity gala hosted by her bank, Florence spotted him again. He was standing by the bar, a glass of wine in hand, speaking animatedly to a group of people who seemed utterly captivated by him. Her heart sank. She had hoped never to see him again, but there he was, in the middle of a professional circle. Their eyes met briefly, and this time he didn't smile. Instead, he nodded politely and turned back to his conversation. Florence felt a mixture of relief and irritation. Good, she thought, at least he knows to stay in his lane. But as the evening progressed, she found herself drawn to his presence. He moved through the room with ease, charming everyone he spoke to. Eventually, he approached her table, extending a hand with a warm smile. "Miss Florence, I believe we got off on the wrong foot the other night," he said. "Allow me to introduce myself properly. I am Tobby Additional." Florence hesitated, but eventually shook his hand. "Florence Adetayo," she replied curtly. "I know," he said, his smile widening. "Your name carries weight in this room." She arched an eyebrow. "And yours doesn't?" Toby laughed, a deep, rich sound. "Touche, but I am not here to compete. I am here to work with your bank on a major investment project." Her professional instincts kicked him, and she stiffened slightly. "Well, Mr. Additional, I hope we can keep things strictly professional." "Of course," he said, his tone respectful. "But just so you know, I still think you are remarkable," Toby said, smiling from ear to ear. Over the coming months, Toby's presence became unavoidable. Their paths crossed frequently due to work, and each encounter chipped away at the walls Florence had built around her heart. Toby was different, persistent yet patient, confident yet humble. He challenged her in ways no one else had, and slowly, against her better judgment, Florence found herself wondering if she could trust him. Could this man be the one to heal her scars? Or was it just another disaster waiting to happen? Florence wasn't sure, but for the first time in months, she was willing to take the risk. One sunny afternoon, after a long meeting at work with Toby's company, he politely asked Florence, "Let me take you to a dinner. No strings attached, just a meal and conversation. If you ate it, I promise I will leave you alone." Florence sighed. She was tempted to decline, but found herself agreeing. "Fine, one dinner, that's it." Over the next few weeks, Toby proved to be persistent yet patient. Their dinner turned into more casual outing, and slowly, Florence began to let her guard down. Toby was kind, intelligent, and attentive, a stark contrast to the chaotic and tumultuous relationship she had endured with Funsho. He listened when he spoke, respected her boundaries, and never pushed too hard. Despite herself, Florence started to feel something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. One evening, as they strolled through a quiet park, Toby stopped and turned to her. "Florence, I know you've been hurt before, and I don't want to rush you, but I want you to know that I'm serious about you. I want to build something real with you." Florence looked at him, her emotions swelling. "Toby, I don't know if I'm ready. My past, it's complicated." I am not asking you to forget your past, he said gently. I am asking you to let me be part of your future. His words struck a chord, and for the first time in months, Florence allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved to be happy again. A few weeks later, Florence brought Tobby home to introduce him to her parents. They immediately approved of him, impressed by his success, reputable job, and the thriving company he managed. It wasn't long before their introduction ceremony was planned. The event was simple yet elegant, with only a selected few guests in attendance, making it a memorable occasion. 2 months later, Florence and Tobby tied the knot in a grand lavish wedding that became the talk of the town. Florence's wedding to Tobby was nothing short of a fairy tale. The event was held at one of the most prestigious venues in the city, adorned with cascading floral arrangements, glittering chandeliers, and the soft glow of candlelight. Every detail, from the custom-designed wedding gown Florence wore to the gourmet dishes served, exuded elegance and sophistication. The guest list included the creme de la creme of society, business moguls, celebrities, and influential figures. Florence's parents beamed with pride as they watched their daughter walk down the aisle, her arm linked with her dad's. For a moment, Florence allowed herself to bask in the happiness of the day, pushing away the lingering shadows of her past. Toby stood at the altar, looking dashing in his bespoke suit, his eyes filled with adoration as he watched her approach. When they exchanged vows, his words were heartfelt and sincere, promising to cherish her and give her a life filled with love and stability. As the couple sealed their vows with a kiss, the room erupted in applause, and Florence felt a glimmer of hope that she could finally leave her painful past behind. The reception was equally grand, with live music, a towering wedding cake, and a dance floor that remained full late into the night. Tobby proved to be the perfect partner, ensuring Florence felt loved and celebrated throughout the evening. As they danced their first dance as husband and wife, Florence allowed herself to believe that this was the happy ending she deserved. On the night of their wedding, Florence and Tobby entered their beautifully decorated bedroom. Roses were scattered across the bed and floor, and a bottle of wine sat on the table with 2 glasses, ready to be shared. Florence, still in her wedding gown and makeup flawless from the day's celebrations, sat beside Tobby on the bed. They clinked their glasses, smiling, and Florence began talking about the reception, recounting the events of the day with excitement. However, Tobby seemed distant. His eyes were fixed on the glass in his hand, his mind clearly elsewhere. Florence noticed his lack of attention and leaned closer, gently shaking his arm. "Tobby, are you listening?" she asked softly. Suddenly, Tobby stood up, his expression darkening. "Are you mad?" he barked, his voice startling her. "How dare you touch me like that? Who the hell do you think you are?" Florence froze, her heart pounding in disbelief. "Tobby, what is wrong? Did I do something to upset you?" Tobby laughed bitterly, his tone dripping with contempt. "Oh, is it because I put a ring on your finger? You think I love you? Let me tell you something. Florence, you are mistaken. I don't love you. I never have. I only married you because I want to pay your family back for what it did to my dad years back, and not because I wanted to spend my life with you. And I swear on my dad's grave, I will pay back kobo for kobo, dime for dime, no stone unturned. This is a promise on my dad's grave." Hey lovelies, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's Blessing Matthew. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are fine. If this is your first time I'm seeing you, please do well to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please like the video. Do not forget to drop me a comment, and lastly, do not forget to share. And always remember, I love you so much. Thank you so much, and God bless you.